awesome. And then Cherie, she is our president of the Black Nurses Association. Woo, woo. Cherie, did you want to say anything? I would love for you to.
Oh, I'm just always running around. It's so crazy. I'm such a leader. I don't want to step up and lead things. It just happens naturally. So I'm like, I do things. But no, I do appreciate everyone coming out. I had the honor of actually working with Charlene also at our healthcare organization. So I heard great things about her, and then we met, and I'm like, confirmed. You know, you hear and then you meet someone. It's just a great experience, and you can really feel her heart. So I was excited. In fact, I read the book because, you know, you have it, and then you're like, I'm gonna get to it. And I run into Dr. Jan, and she clutches her pearls. Have you read this? And I said, I better speed this up. I was like, apparently it's life-changing. So I definitely, and Dr. Jan would not give that reaction or feedback lightly. And so out of my respect for her, I said, oh, this is good. I said, because she wouldn't lie about it.
Yeah.
So it was such a gift, and it's always such a gift to work with you. So I'm happy that we're having this and to meet all of you, and I'm excited. She's done exercises for our group as well, and just has such wisdom. So it's you never leave without something. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, she is super awesome. So let me tell you a little bit of the why behind this book. Now, there's multiple stories in here because in 2020, when the murder of George Floyd happened, in addition to COVID-19 and all the other things that happened in 2020 in healthcare, that's where I found my voice. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was so distressed because I normally don't look at the news. And so I happened to see it, and then that just took me to prayer. And so as I got into prayer, and I was like crying, and I was like upset, and all of those things because of the emotions that were connected to it, I heard the voice of God, and he said, what you do in this moment will determine your destiny and dictate your future. And so I had to move from anguish and frustration to action and impact. And that's where I started having listening sessions. I mean, I just was flowing. I didn't even know what I was supposed to do, but I know as the only Black nurse leader at that time, I had to do something because I was on vacation, and then my coworker, she texted me and she was like, oh my God, Shirley, I don't even know how to lead in this environment. And she said, what can we do? And so I did a listening session for the ones that were affected first. And then I did one for my unit, and then people heard about it. And then I wound up doing one in partnership with EID for our whole hospital. And so when you find your voice, you become unstoppable. I became disruptive. I really did. I did not mind having those courageous conversations then. And so I talk a lot about that. So with that being said, another story that's in there, you'll read it in more detail, is in 2010, I kind of got burned out from nursing. So I've been in the profession since 1993. And so I kind of got burned out. I was still going, I'm still smiling, I'm still doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But it was just this unrest and this irritation and this, this uneasiness that was there. And I was like, okay, what is going on? This is a profession I know that I've been called to. I love it, but there's something not quite right. And so as I was really pondering doing something different than nursing, the organization brought in Dr. Gene Watson, the science of caring. And that theory really helped me to shift everything, because what happened is the theory came in. Now, we didn't even know a lot about it, but I knew there was 10 Caritas processes. And so one day on my unit, about a month later, we had a situation that happened. And the situation was, I call it a miracle, because we were, I worked nights at the time. And so I'm going about my business. I'm an assistant nurse manager at the time. And when I got to the unit, I felt the intensity of the unit. And so I was like, I better put on some scrubs. So I put my scrubs on, because normally we didn't. They didn't want us really wearing scrubs. And so 4 a.m., code C, labor and delivery, code C, labor and delivery. A baby's in trouble, a mom is in trouble, so we have to get the baby out within 10 minutes. And so we went into action, and I found myself in the operating room, which was really bizarre because normally I send my troops in first. But it just happened that way because everybody was moving so fast. And so we went in there, and I mean, we start resuscitating because when the baby came out, he was limp, no life whatsoever, like totally pale. And I grabbed him, I put him on the table, and we start resuscitating. Wasn't really concerned about it because this is what we do. I'm a NICU person, so we resuscitate all the time. It's no problem. 1 minute, 0 APGARs, meaning no life. 5 minutes, no life. I mean, we were working hard. 7 minutes, no life. 10 minutes, no life. And everybody's like scrambling. But you guys, at 10 minutes, you can hear a pin drop in there just about, because we had recognized that, I think we're losing him. 15 minutes, no heart rate, no breathing. 17 minutes, the doctor said, that's it, Charlene, let's stop it now. And it was the hardest thing to do, to stop. And so we stopped, we extubated and wrapped him up and then just waited, because at that time, mommy was out, so she had no clue that we lost him. And so within about 30 seconds or so, I remember going over to the baby, and I grabbed this little fist. Let me see your fist. And it was like cold as ice. And I was like, God, just grant this family a miracle. And then we continued wrapping them up. And I just felt so strong, the compassion. And then doctor, he said, I'm gonna listen one more time, and then we're gonna call it quits. And he listened, and he looked at me with these big old eyes, and he was like, oh my God, there's a very faint heart rate. So I grabbed him and I just ran to the NICU because it was right here. And we start resuscitating again, 20 minutes. That's 20 minutes in at that point. And I'm telling you, when I put him on the monitor and his heart rate was up and we re-intubated and we did all the things, it was a miracle, literally. And then the physician at the time, he was like, I can't believe you did this. You know, why did you do this? The baby's not gonna be able to breastfeed. He's not gonna recognize his mother. He's gonna have CP. He's gonna have all of these things. And I couldn't even say anything, but I just believe in miracles. And then he was like, you're too optimistic and da-da-da-da-da. So I had to hear that. And then we went on and we transferred him to a higher level of care. And then 3 days later, his mom, we stayed connected with her. She sent us a picture of him. And you know, back then, that was like 2010, the computers were not fast like that. It was like slowly coming up like this. And I was like, what is this? And oh my God, it was him, and he only had an NG tube in, and he was our second passive cooling patient. And I cried like a baby. My kids were like, Mom, what's wrong? What's wrong? I was like, this is like a miracle. And so what's really interesting about this is we had just moved into a new neighborhood. And I said, you know what, there's closure that needs to happen, because all of the workers, the docs, everybody was still traumatized from this whole incident of the baby going and not knowing what's happening to him. And so I think I did. I texted her, I say, hey, I would love to get together, you know, just a reunion with the medical team, the miracle team, I called them. And she's like, oh yeah, that would be fabulous. And I text her, ask her where she lived. You guys, she lived 2 minutes from my house. 2 minutes from my house. I was like, no way. And so I didn't know, because I had just moved there. And so I took the team over there, and you guys, it was the most amazing reunion. Like the physician, she grabbed little Vincent, and she would not let him go. I had to like pry him out of her hands, and it was just a beautiful thing. And then at 1 year, they invited us to their farm, because they had this huge farm, and we did a big birthday bash for him. So what I'm hinting at in my book is that even in the midst of my frustration and agitation and things like that, we can make a difference right where we stand. Right where we stand, we can use the gifts and the talents that we have to make an impact right where we are. And so that's really what I'm trying to do. When I found my voice, that's when things start happening. Like what happened, I hadn't spoke up in 20 years, basically. And then I finally get this moment, and then I began to start speaking up, and then it cascades. It starts moving momentum. And so I think so that was 2010. And then I think around 2007, I started feeling it again, and then I went into management, went up another level. I was like, okay, this is cool. This is cool, I can do this. But I'm telling you, there's something just not right. I'm not sure what it is. And really, it was my whisper of my heart telling me that it was something else that I was supposed to be doing. And that's really what I boiled it down to, because there's a vocation and then there's an occupation. My occupation was a nurse leader. My vocation is one who inspires, is one that loves to design transformative content. So that was what I started finding out about myself. And so that's where I was like, that's why I said I was misaligned for a period of time, because you know what, who wants to leave six figures? I mean, like, seriously, I didn't really, because the comfort zone is nice and it's cushy and you don't have to do too much. But I knew that I have got to do something different. Like, I even tried for I knew for sure that I did not want to be a director. I knew that, I could have did that, but I didn't want to be miserable. And so that's why I chose not to do it. Huh? No, but I mean, it's really good for some, but I think that's where I'm really like hoping people can tap into what it is that you're supposed to be doing. You have to follow your whisper. Like, just because I did that doesn't mean everybody should do that. But I knew that there was a war going on within me, that I had to do something different. And that's where I found out that, okay, Charlene, it's time for you to early retire. My favorite quote, I took some time off and I found this quote: you don't die when your heart stops beating, you die when your heartbeats have no meaning. Nailed it for me, because I had started losing meaning of the work. Yes, ma'am.
Could you say the distinction between vocation and occupation?
Oh yeah, so my occupation was a nurse or a physician. It's like who you are. I mean, your career. Your vocation is kind of like a calling, like something that you were called to do. And I know that I was called to inspire other people. And like now, what I'm doing, I decided to start my own business. I started it before I left, and it's called the Wellness Whisper Consulting and Coaching LLC. And it's because I want to bring wellness and wholeness to the care teams that I saw we had a gap. And I wanted to fill that gap. So I go into organizations helping to inspire, spark the light once again, and really to sustain ourselves in the profession, because the profession is not easy, but it's so important, and I'm trying to think of a word. It's really enriching. Nursing is so enriching. It has been an amazing journey for me, 32 years of amazing journey. Yes, ma'am.
My question is, I mean, I'm still impacted by it, and I don't take care of children, but coding a newborn for 20 minutes, like, I'm impacted hearing about it. How do you recover from that in the moment with your team and kind of attuning to everyone, or how did you navigate it? Like, that piqued my interest hearing that.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, I don't work with babies or kids, so.
Yeah, it was extremely hard. It was extremely difficult. So what I decided to do, because we know that when you write, it's therapeutic. And so what I did, I had all of the people that were in the OR write a story to him as if he was going to read it when he was a kid. And so it's called Letters to Vincent. And so every care team person in there wrote their heart of what they saw happen, because he impacted so many people, thousands of people, just with his birth. But that was so healing for us to be able to do that. And so I presented it to them on Thanksgiving. And so it was like, she said, it was not a dry eye around the table when she read it, because she read every story right there at Thanksgiving with him just like, so just to see that he really shouldn't have been here, and he's sitting there vibrant and engaged with his mom, and she read every story. So I think that really helped us with writing, because after we were able to write, and the closure, like once you get like a high-risk baby that goes to another facility, you don't really know what's going on. So I think because one of the nurses was connected in, she was her labor nurse, and she actually lived in Roseville, so she was able to really connect. And so she would like update us on different things, because mom wanted us to know you know how things were going. So that was, I think we had like a really close. And then she made her pediatrician the godfather. I mean, we're all tangled up in there. We're all tangled up in there because every year I get my Christmas card from her. You know, it's just the most beautiful relationship. And then she called me 2 years ago. See, this story is like super long. I didn't put any of that in there. But 2 years after that, she called me and she was like, Charlene, I really want to have another baby, but I'm very traumatized because she didn't get to hold him. She woke up and they basically told her baby was dead and he's not going to make it to Roseville. And so she was traumatized like big time. And so when she called me, I was like, okay, I got to help her through this part of it. And so, you know, we kept talking and things like that. I said, you know what, we're going to be here to support you. We'll give you the things that you didn't get, like the skin to skin and, you know, all the stuff that mommies want to do. And so she got pregnant again. And then I think it was delivery time. Now, this miracle team, at least half of them worked for no pay because they didn't work the day that she came in. They all came in.
Oh, wow.
And we all did the same thing. I'm telling you guys, when that baby cried, we cried. We were bawling because like she got to put the baby on the breast. And it was such a like restoration for her. I mean, she could not contain herself. So it was the most beautiful thing. And it's just like those connections that you make with patients is just like amazing. Like I will never forget that. And that's what Dr. Jean Watson calls life giving and life receiving. Like she impacted us way more than we impacted her. I mean, we both did it, but it's this mutual connection together. And so, I mean, that was like amazing. And then to know that we only had brought the theory in like a month before that incident, but I remembered number 10 to be open for miracles. See, I remembered that. That's the one thing that just like popped out. And so would I have done that before? I really don't think so, because I had already been kind of like talked to for when a patient asked me to pray with them. And so I was not really like ready to go there again, but that theory allowed me to stay open. And so that's how we were able to do that. So I've been talking a lot. Any questions? Any questions?
How old is he now?
He is 14.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
He's 14. And he is, okay, they discharged him from the high-risk clinic at 11 months. So he didn't have to keep all of the series of tests and things like that. So it was like literally a miracle. I actually, when, after all of that, Dr. Jane Watson found out about or heard about it, and she asked me if I could showcase that miracle story in her education program. And so I got permission to be able to do that. So it's just been, I've even had Mom come and speak to our team.
Nice.
It was really great. She came and spoke and told how she felt with the whole experience. She was just saying how she was so afraid. And she said when she woke up, everybody's like telling her what's happening with the baby. And she said she did not want to hear any of that. I just want my baby. Where is my baby? She kept saying that over and over. So it was really just an eye-opener for us to hear her story too. Yeah.
I'm such an administrator. I was like, that team needs a Daisy Award. Best story.
Double
It
Daisy.
should have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
but
Wow.
yeah. Well, I've been through like 11 directors in 11 years.
Wow.
So that's probably why it didn't get recognized. That's why you have to find your voice. So when I found my voice, I started bragging about our team because that wasn't really happening. And so we started shining. We started doing things that were making a difference in the hospital. And so that's one piece of advice that I shared before I left, to make sure that we celebrate our teams when we are having wins. It might not be the win that you want, but when you got nurses engaged like that story, like somebody, me and the mom were supposed to write the story. She was like, we should partner and do a book about this. And so we might do that. I'm gonna see if she still wants me to do that. But that was our like thing for last year. But she's like doing marathons and all kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's another story. So stories are powerful. When we entered into 2020 and dealt with all of the unfortunate incidents with George Floyd and the racial unrest that we were having, it was the best thing in the world to be able to use a story to transform lives. Because that's literally what happened. I started sharing my story. I gotta tell you guys this one story. I didn't put it in here, but I went to nursing school. I was so excited. Finally, I got a job. Guess where I got a job at? In the NICU, as a new grad. So I was so excited about that. And so I get to work. So I got on white clogs, white pants, white shirt. I'm like the nurse for sure. And I show up on the floor and I'm putting my bag down, and then I get a tap on the shoulder, and I look, and this lady, she goes, "You must be our housekeeper."
Oh.
And I was like, okay, this is my first day. I said, no, like a nurse. She was like, oh, the table's over there. And so it was like, that was like my first introduction to, as a new grad, already hitting with racism. And so, of course, I'm gonna be my loving self and keep on doing my thing. And I did, I kept doing what I was doing, but that hurt. It does, because you don't feel like you belong at that point. And then right after nursing school, was taking care of this one patient, and I think I did put that in the book, cleaning her up because she hadn't seen her family yet. So her hair was all over her head. So I wanted to, make her look good before the family came. And so I'm cleaning her up, and then she grabs my wrist, like she has these long, nasty fingernails, and she puts it into my wrist, and I'm like, oh my God. And she said, "Get your hands off of me," and she used the N-word. I mean, right in my face, you guys. I was like, wow. Okay, so this devil over here said, put the pillow over her head. And then my loving mom said, love her beyond where she is.
Yes.
That could be your mother. So I'm having all these conversations in my head when it happened. And of course, love always conquers and love wins. And so I was able to move there, but it was just the most devastating comment that I could have heard, because at that point, it was not really anybody I can talk to. I couldn't talk to anybody. I told my professor, she said, oh, she probably just has Alzheimer. She just brushed it off. And so I just kind of went through and had to work through my own healing process from those words that were spoken. But I did not allow those words to define who I was. And so it just made me more bolder, more fiercer, but still quiet. I did not start talking until 2020. Yes, ma'am.
I want to say something,
Yeah.
if I can. Having your book and reading it, and chapter 5 especially 3 times already, I wonder if it's okay to say that you have alligator skin.
Alligator skin.
Because
I think we all have, all of us have our stuff that we have to fight through. I really do. I think, but I really have to give credit to my mom and my dad for really grooming me with my relationship with God. I really do, because I had to lean on him when I didn't have anybody else. And so I think that's really what helped build the foundation. So when I went through these things like that, I wanted to be the one that loved you beyond. I want to be the one that says, like, you know what, I'm not going to allow that to make me back off from loving you, which is hard. I know it's hard, but that's kind of how I had to deal with it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I've never asked you this question, but with the title, When the Moment Chooses You, was it the whole story that you told us that was what chose you, or was there one instant in that chose you?
No, I think it's probably several moments, but the original moment was when I was in prayer, and he said, what you do in this moment will determine your destiny and dictate your future. So that was the moment for me to either shrink back or me to act. And so that's what I chose to do. I chose to act. I chose to raise my voice and to, bring, support to other people. So I think it's moments that we have, like, they're like a lot of different moments. I've had a lot of moments in my life that really changed the trajectory of where I was going. Just like I just early retired, that was a moment, because here I am, I stepped from comfort to totally have no clue what I was going to be doing. And so, yeah, I do think we have several moments. All right, is that good? Any more questions? I'm gonna just read just a little bit, and then we're gonna be done. How we doing on time? I want to make sure I'm done. Okay. Okay, and you guys, if you notice in the book, you'll see at the end, because I don't like just doing stuff, I like to have people reflect. So after each chapter, there is a reflection, some reflective questions. Like for instance, chapter 1 is a moment to reflect, and it talks about the uncertainties of life and things like that. So at the end, I like to, kind of give you some questions for you to reflect for yourself. Because some of us, we're too busy to ask questions. And so really the idea is to reflect. So I'm gonna actually read, I'm just gonna read the preface because I think that will be good enough because it'll explain everything. So as I reflect on my journey that led me for the creation of this book, I am reminded of the countless moments, some profound, some fleeting, which have shaped my path as a nurse leader and human being. Each moment, like a brushstroke on the canvas of my life, has left its mark guiding me to greater self-discovery, resilience, and purpose. When the moment chooses you is more than just a collection of stories, it's a testament to the power of embracing the unexpected, finding strength in adversity, and discovering one's voice in the face of silence. In these pages, I invite you to join me on a journey of exploration and empowerment, a journey that transcends the boundaries of healthcare leadership and speaks to the universal human experience of growth, transformation, and self-realization. Through personal anecdotes, reflections, and wisdom gleaned from years of navigating the complexities of healthcare, I hope to illuminate the path of authentic leadership, meaningful change, and collective empowerment. From moments of uncertainty and doubt to moments of clarity and conviction, each chapter offers insight and lessons learned, serving as guideposts for those embarking on their own journey of self-discovery and leadership. It is my sincere hope that this book serves as a source of inspiration, encouragement, and empowerment for nurses, leaders, change makers alike. May it spark conversations, ignite passion, and awaken the inner leader within each reader, reminding us of the profound impact we can have when we allow the moment to choose us. Thank you for embarking on this journey with me. Voila. Yeah. So that's pretty much it, unless you guys have any other questions.
Are you working on book number 2 already?
Yes, I am. I have a few babies in the oven. So before I left work, I was like really pregnant already. And so one of them that I'm working on now, because when I retired, you guys, I was looking forward to retirement. I was excited about it. July 5th came, I retired. I actually got a video of me dropping my golden handcuffs. I do, I got all of that. But then I was stuck. I couldn't move, I couldn't write, I couldn't do anything. And so I had to like get out in nature and see what was going on. And I traveled and did all of the things, but still I was stuck. And so I found out that I had, I started going in nature, and what was revealed to me that I had encountered soul pain because I was misaligned for that long period of time. And so it was almost like essence was oozing from me. And I didn't know why I was restless. I didn't know why I was agitated. I'm trying to apply for this and do that, and all of it wasn't working because really it was time for me to leave. And so, so the Soul Keeps Score, that's a workshop that I'm working on. And then, who confirms it? I get a call from a nurse from, where was she from? Somewhere, Southern California maybe. And she said, you know what, Charlene, I can't take this no more. This is my 6th mental health leave, and I'm just done. Mm-hmm. And so I got an opportunity to talk to her and see what was going on with her. But then I start getting calls from people that had left or discontent and stuff like that, just really trying to encourage them. So I knew that it was something to it. And so I think, when you stay longer than you need to stay, mm-hmm. that's where you start having some challenges. Because I kind of pictured this like my heart, it had a tiny little hole. Now, I was smiling, I was loving on people, I was doing the thing anyway, but inside there was something quiet and something crying on the inside of me that there's something more. that I needed to do. And I think that's when once that realization came, I was like, you know what, you have got to stop, because to me, if I would have stayed, my well-being would have been at stake. It really, even though I was doing fulfilling work, it was just the other part that I didn't like and that I didn't want to be bothered with at 58. I was like, no, I'm good, I'm done. I've done all of the striving, I've done all of the, all of the things that I needed to do, and I felt like it was complete. It was time for me to go back and then come back in with a different perspective to help people to stay by teaching them different tools. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think you were impacted by having so many changes with your leadership?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And maybe you would have stayed longer had you had the right leadership?
I think so. It's possible because, when you think about leadership and then going up the ranks, like, I can't really say that I've ever had a mentor. I can't really say that. When I was in the Women in Leadership program that I got a scholarship to get into, they asked me, like, what woman that I looked up to, and I was like dumbfounded, like, dang. I don't know. I was, and that was kind of sad, but but when you have that much change, we had change. I don't know what it is with MCH, but it's like constantly changing leadership. So I don't know what that is, but it definitely is very traumatizing. And then you don't really have anybody, and then you're doing like director work. It was too much. And then the directors that were there, didn't empower you. She didn't elevate. It was more of a shrink to fit. You are going to do what I tell you to do. No, you can't do caring science. No, you can't do this. It started being like that, and I was like, I'm over that. I'm not a child. I'm trying to help our unit, and so that kind of stuff started, playing in there too. So, but I do think it's possible, Romy, that I would have stayed if I had the right mentorship. The first time I got mentorship was in 2020, when I did that 3-part series that we did. That's the first time, because then somebody from Region pinged me and said, hey, what are you doing? Who's mentoring you? I want to introduce you to ABC. That's when things start taking off, when that person that was external start really speaking life into me.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because I got mentorship later in my career as well, but it's made all the difference, and I think Carter would say the same.
Yeah.
That we had, Dr. Peary and Dr. Jan and other professionals just flow in our life and really made the difference, and so that's so important. But it's also very interesting thinking about when the moment chooses you. And you mentioned being a director. I laugh because it's really hard, and you're right, people don't stay because it's really hard.
Yeah.
And I've been a director for 3 years, and until today, because you have your frustrating days, and I'm just like, it's hard, and I stay here. I'm in a union meeting that's like heated. Everyone's going up until someone stands up and says, and it's like multiple directors are a part of this, not just my portfolio. And so one of the labor leaders stands up and said, Cherie's portfolio is the example. She works in partnership. Her employees are happy.
Yeah.
We work together to move things forward. That's why she doesn't have any grievances. And I was like, okay, don't dogpile on my colleagues. But
Yeah.
when I hear other people talk about it, like, I don't get it. Every meeting I go, there's all these grievances and this is happening. I really don't. And apparently that was the culture before. And
Yeah.
so it made me think about, because you feel like you're never doing enough as a leader, but it
Yeah.
made me think about how I have influenced the culture as a director and leading leaders.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it changed the culture of every other person. I was like, I didn't even realize that was no longer our reality. I couldn't remember the last time I had a grievance, actually.
That's beautiful.
And labor noticed it. And
Yeah.
so I do think you are called to do things, and you're there for a reason.
Yeah.
And just today, I'm like, this is the reason I was supposed to be here, and yes, it's hard, but look how much I've been able, and you couldn't have told, like Carter knows, I don't take credit for anything. I'm like, I'm just working along, and it's not my style, but it definitely was impactful. So I think you're right. When someone's in their moment, it may look different for each person.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what's special.
Yeah. Carter, you would be proud. I have like, I'm teaching at USF, it's a leadership course. At least half of the class are men.
Oh, wow.
I was blown away because I've never had that many in the class. I mean, I think I had like 18 to 17.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow. So Carter, you guys, he's like the bomb. Sorry, I put you on blast. But he's yeah, he is a nurse leader, and he is like the most amazing person that, I met. So I just wanted to, you have any thoughts?
My mind was going to, if you capture in your book at all, when you miss a moment. Because I feel like as a leader in leading others, there's times we feel like there was an opportunity or a moment and you don't get those back.
Yeah.
So I've been very fortunate, a lot of moments have choose me, and I let the moments that I miss fuel me.
Yeah.
But I wonder if there's anything that you could maybe give us to help with that, because I think for my nurses and people that I serve, it's hard for them to get back to it, and
Yeah.
have that resiliency, so. anything for
Yeah,
that?
I think that there's a few little action steps and things like that in there, but I would say you really have to just give yourself grace. I really, really have to say that, because when you miss a moment, you miss a moment. Like, you can't get it back. And then you holding on to your history at the expense of your destiny is worse, right? And so, okay, I had this moment that came, I didn't respond to it like I wanted to. Let me give myself some grace. Now, it will take some time because it's challenging when you see that you've missed. And if you're not doing the personal development work on yourself, then that's where I think personal development is like so key in all of the challenges that I've had to face. If I wasn't doing me on the outside of work, I'd be jacked up, stuck in a loop of bitterness and resentment and all of the things. But I gave myself grace to move into the different things that I know that I'm called to do now. You see what I'm saying? So I don't really have specific, but I do know that you have to give yourself grace when you miss a moment. Yeah, you have to give yourself grace and definitely do the work, because you don't want to. And I love that comment, don't hold on to your history at the expense of your destiny, because our history can eclipse our future. And so anything significant that we have planned, if we stay stuck here, then we're not gonna be able to move forward. Yeah.
I wonder too, based upon what he just said, how many times do we miss a moment, but maybe we're supposed to miss the moment because we need to do a little more growth to be right where we need to be to really capture the next moment.
Yep.
So maybe we're on a path
possible.
and you don't hold yourself accountable to that, but let it flow. Let it come into you and build, and see if God speaks to you. If it is meant, He will talk to you.
Yeah, but that's what I found. A lot of people don't do the work. I think personal development is so critical. You have to do the work on yourself. So when you have upsets, when you have challenges, when things punch you from the, you have to be able to be resilient. And resilient, not just putting up with, but it's the capacity to prepare for, recover from, and adapt. So it's a process. And I've got to prepare for it. So I'm going to prepare for it by doing the work, finding out who I really am, finding out what things who am I without the title? Who am I when things are not going wrong? When I go home, who am I? You know what I'm saying? Like really getting to know who we are. Because then you get like that bold confidence once you know who you are.
So when the moment chooses you, all those things come into factor, and you carry it with that moment, with this, who you are at home, who you are at work,
Yeah.
and who you are with other people. You work all that in together to become exactly who you know you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about brands, because like my brand, if you ask anybody at South Sacramento Kaiser and ask them, well, describe Charlene for me, you know what they probably would say? She's a love bug and she loves peace, because that's the brand that I walked in. And Stacy, she used to be there, right, Stacy? And so I used to go in and I'd say I walk in undisturbed composure.
Yes.
That's what I would say. I said that over and over because when I first became an A&M, it was so tough. I mean, they were trying to check me and test me like at every turn. I could not get a break. And so I was like, okay, I gotta get one up on this. And so I started doing my mantra, I walk in undisturbed composure, because I knew disturbances were gonna come. And so my preparing for was before my feet hit the ground. I'm walking in undisturbed composure. I'm locking that in my heart. So when I step in, although those darts are coming, and I felt them coming, but I wouldn't let them penetrate my shield. I still kept telling everybody, hey, you're loved and appreciated. And they thought I was cray-cray. But now they miss me saying that you're loved and appreciated, because I get texts every day. Oh, Charlene, nobody's told us they love and appreciate us. It's like, that's good. I'm glad that you remembered that. But that's brand. That's your brand, because it's like this. If I go to Paris or wherever and I ask for a grande soy chai, no water, no foam, that's a brand. Starbucks makes it like that, no matter where they are. And so I think of brand in that way. It's me. Who am I when I'm upset? Who am I? You know, it's like statue. Character means statue. In the rain, sleet, snow, they're still the same. Like, you're not gonna see me act ugly because I've worked on my brand. Even when I'm upset, I'm not gonna get ugly. I might get loud. But not like back in the day, because I've worked on myself. All right, you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you.